What's up, guys? Welcome to the House of Entrepreneurs, where we help others pursue entrepreneurship. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm glad that you're here, and I want to thank you so much for subscribing and watching this content. And I want to encourage you to please continue to share my content so that it can reach out to many people. Thank you. Recently, I visited a friend of mine, and he told me, Marvin, you never told us how your transition was, in business, how you handled transition when you are coming from Africa to the US, and the challenges that you faced, how different business is done back in Africa and how it is done in the US. And I thought about it, and I was like, I've never shared my story on how business is different from the African content versus the North American context. I was thinking about it, and I was like, so what do I even have to share about it? And then I thought about just me sharing my personal experience, how I've been in business for a long time. Like I said in one of my videos, that I started selling stuff when I was like 13 years. I would go to the market and buy like a nice shoe and put it on. Like, that's how I was doing my marketing. And some kid at school would see it, and I would double the price. I would say, if I bought it at $5, I would tell him, I need 10 out of this shoe because it's really nice. And the kid would give me 10, and I would go back, in that same market, get a different one. That's how I got introduced into business. And my whole family, again, I've said this in the nature versus nurture, that how I ended up in entrepreneurship. My whole family has been in business, whether it's on my mom's side or on my dad's side. They have all been in business. They are all business minded, entrepreneur. Like, they rarely have they worked for someone. Like, rarely have they had a job, like a corporate job. I think that's why I've really not been so interested in corporate jobs, because I didn't grow up seeing that either on my dad's side or on my mom's side. They were always having their own businesses, always doing something of their own, and so growing up is the same thing that I grew up the same thing that I grew up in, like thinking of ownership, of wanting to take control of my own future, and starting something of my own, and making that profit. Really, I've always wanted to that idea of making profit. There's something I like about that, like making a profit. Maybe I'll share in some other video to come. When I make profit, what do I do with that profit? Why do I like making profit? That's going to be another interesting conversation. But I've always done business, and from the African context, that's where I originally come from. Did so many different businesses. Sometimes I was sold cars, had a retail store. I was a broker. You wanted land, you'd come and real estate. You'd talk to me, and I have many people who would consult me on such things. Hey, I'm thinking of buying a car, or I'm thinking of what car should I buy? I have this amount of money. And people would always come to me, because they knew I was going to say I was like a one-stop center, but which I don't mind, and I like it, because in one way it's a good thing, because I have to be knowledgeable about what's happening in every sector. And so coming to the US, it looks like I'm still going through that transition, because the way I did business in the African context is totally different. And I'm going to be sharing a few stories, some of the culture shock things that I have met here, that I'm still learning. And of course, when I came, I was like, okay, hit the ground running. That's what I I thought. And of course, like, I've already opened up a company account and all that, registered an LLC. I've done all those things. In fact, my made some money for my business, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly or fit in the way the North American people do business. I'm still fitting in because a few things that have really intrigued me, or things that I have had to think through as a way, do I want to do business like this, or do I want to do business like the North American culture, or do I want to do business like the African culture? Because those are totally different ways of doing business, and I'm trying to look for that middle spot that I'm not too, because there's nothing wrong with either culture. There's nothing wrong with the North American culture, the way they do business, and there is nothing wrong with the African culture, the way they do business, because that's their culture. And you cannot say, oh, you guys should do this, because this culture is better than this culture. That's not true, and there's no culture that is better than the other culture. And so one of the things that I have come to educate myself, or to come into realization, I don't know if that's the word that I should use, is the North American culture, the way they do business, is totally capitalistic. It's a capitalistic culture. Versus where I come from, there's a mixture of communism and a mixture of capital. It's not like purely capitalistic. Now, for me, that has already, coming here, it kind of like took me back, because coming from a culture where it's not like purely communist, but there's some communism. It's not purely, and when I'm talking about communism, I'm not talking about the sense of the sense of the bad side of communism, but I'm talking about in sense of sharing, things like to do with sharing, things to do with doing things in a communal way. What they say, that raising a child, the village raises a child, that's what I'm talking about. And versus the North American way of doing business, which is totally capitalistic. It is individualistic, and this is not the first country that I've lived in that has a capitalistic mindset or culture. I lived in somewhere else. I think the first thing that actually why I couldn't fit in was because I came from a culture where everything is communal, not really communal, but relationships come first. And then when I went to this other country where it was before I moved here, where it was individualistic, I couldn't handle that kind of change, and so I had to go back home. But one of the things that I have come to like, I'm still transitioning to that mentality of totally capitalistic. And here are some of the examples of what I mean to capitalistic, like purely capitalistic. Because by nature, like I said, by nature, that's not the way I have done business, and so that has had to come with an adjustment, and I'm still adjusting. I'm still adjusting, I'm still growing, I'm still growing at some of these things, the way business is done, like in the North American culture. And one of the things that I had to learn was business here is very individualistic. It's versus where I come from, where there's a sense of community. Businesses, let's say if I want to do business with someone, there has to be a relationship first, that that I know this person, and versus here where it's individualistic, the way people do business is totally merit based, and not really. Of course, there are a few pockets here and there where people do business because it's a friend, a cousin, of course they're still, that can't miss even in a capitalistic country. But how I have seen this is the way the people here are versus where I come from, the African culture, where, and I would say hot culture temperament, and versus this one is, the North America is the cold culture. People are so individualistic, and there's nothing being individual. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with either culture, but of course I have to change. I have to renew my mind towards that, which is, again, if I've been like nurtured in that for all my life, now I have to retrain my mind, say, hey, you know what, I give business to someone just because they are good at, they are competent at what they do, merit based. That's the way people do business here. That's number one. Number two is, business here is very aggressive. The way people do business here, it's very aggressive. And where I come from, business, yeah, there's trust. There's trust. It's not as aggressive because you look so much of desperate, and people like back home don't want to look desperate, and so that's how business is kind of done. Like, someone here will send you 5 email. When after contact, they'll send you an email. They'll say, let's say if they want to sell you something, they'll send you 3 emails. They'll send you a follow-up email. They'll send you another free content. They will say, that's not how business is done, particularly where I come from. It's more like, okay, I was just trying to follow up. It's kind of like you are begging for business, but here business is aggressive, and I've learned, I'm still learning the art of being aggressive, because naturally that's not my nature. But if I want to make money, and not like really aggressive, being like a push on or what, but looking, even though they're aggressive, they have they have such interesting ways of how they're aggressive. Like, he won't come and like keep pushing. They are polite but aggressive. You can see the aggression in, hey, I want this, they're hungry, I want this, I want this business, I want to do this for you. That's what I'm talking about. Like, they keep following up, they keep until they make that sale. Back home, that's not really how I have seen it. The way people do business is, they are not really aggressive, but they will come ask for business. They will do business in another way. They start from being trustworthy and building relationship. That's the angle they come from. But from here, someone will like just hit you with that first email and ask for business right there and then. Also, still talking on the point of aggression, like, competition is like way high. Like, the way people do business, the competition is way higher. Competition is aggressive. Like, people are looking at, what is this person doing, what is this other person doing, how can I cut my cost, how can I reach what this person is offering, how can I offer better. So I think that's one thing that I also like about it, because competition is good, because it also helps you be a better business person, because you innovate, and you're not just like always sitting there knowing people will always come. And that's where I come from. Like, if you find like someone who has been in business for a long time back home, all they do is get a cup of tea, come, and I'm also like not really generalizing, but this is what I've seen, like, in most cases. Someone will just get a cup of tea, sit, and people will keep coming, and they've been coming for the last 20 years. They like no innovation. He has sat on the same table, he's done same chair, he's done business the same way for 20 years, But yeah, it's rare. People keep innovating, people keep changing, because competition is high. Competition is high. There's always someone coming up with a new idea. There's always someone coming up with something cheaper and something smaller, something something to be done better and faster. And that's what I'm talking about being aggressive. And everything here is about numbers and sales. I have learned to change my mind, or change my mind to things. Okay, so every time I look at something, I need to know how much it is. I like, I've started looking at numbers, and everything is a number. How much am I spending on this? How much what's my return on investment in this? How so that's the transition that I've had to go through. And not that I wasn't doing it before, but again, like I said, coming from a culture that is not purely capitalistic, I've had, sometimes I would say, it's okay, I didn't make a sale out of that, that's okay, I'll survive. And So business wasn't like aggressive the way I was doing business. Everything is profit motive here in the capitalistic culture. Everything, especially here in North America, where everything is like profit motive. What's our profit this year? How much are we making this year? What are our financial goals? How much have we made so far? What's our target? Or how much profit are we making next year? Or how much profit are we making this year? How much have we lost this year? What do we need to do so that we can cut these costs? And so that's why you find like these big corporate companies, they have to cut employees. That's why you always hear, oh, Amazon has cut 3,000 employees. Why? Because they are looking for ways to keep their profit margins. And so these corporate companies always have to look at the profit. How much are we making for shareholders? How much? That's a purely capitalistic culture. Now, one of the things that I'm learning also is you have to be thick-skinned. Like, for you to make it in the capitalistic society, you have to be thick-skinned. You can't, if you have a flaky skin, you're going to fail. You're going to run out of business. And so for me, those are some of the things that I've been learning. Okay, I have to be aggressive, not like in a way that's pushy. I think I'll call it polite aggressive. Like I want business from you. I want to do business from you because I'm capable, because I'm competent, because I can do this. Yeah. So I want to do these things. I want to do business with you. I am asking for business, but I'm not being beggarly. Or maybe it is beggarly, but I have a way that I keep communicating with you that I want business from you. And for me, that has had to change in my mind. It's a shift that is going on in my mind even as we speak. That the way I'm learning to do business has to totally be a new way. And I don't want to also like discard my African way of doing business, because I think if you get things that are good from this culture and things that are good from this culture and you merge them, then you can be a good business person. I don't want to be a person who doesn't care about people. I don't want to be a person who doesn't like care about relationships. I want to care about relationships. I want to have a heart when I'm doing business. For me as a person, that's one thing I want to do. And so there are some things that for sure I'm not going to discard from the African culture. There are other things that of course I will discard, like let's say timeliness. Let's say that one of the timeliness, like people are not time conscious, like where I come from. If someone says the meeting is starting at 3, and that's not, for me, I've always been an early person. I love being early. I hate being late to anything. And so that, like, if it's 3 p.m., if we've said the meeting starts at 3 p.m., I come at 2:30, 2:45, I'm there. Some of things, that's what I'm saying. Some things I will discard, some things I will keep. And so I'm looking for that middle ground where I do business in a way that kind of unique. I don't know if it will be unique, but in a way that honors both cultures, that yes, I'm competent. Yes, I do things with integrity. I do business well. I'm a good business person, good business leader. But I also have a heart. And I'm not saying that the individualistic cultures or the North don't have heart, like when they are doing business. But when I look at these corporate institutions, and like I said, they are mostly driven by profit. Really, I don't know really if I can vouch for them and say that they really, really care for people. Because one of the things that, like I said, one of the things that for me shows that it's not about people first, it's about profit first, is when there's a decrease in the profit, when there's a decrease in, they will look for a way to cut employees. They will look for a way to reduce costs, and of course what's the biggest expense on a balance sheet? It's labor. And so they will cut the labor. And so for me, that's what I'm talking about. And so the other thing is the Western culture, or where I am right now in the US, is a totally free market. What do I mean by free market? I mean that prices are totally determined by demand and supply. It's a free market. Where I come from, there's regulation. Government regulates things, you know. But here there's less interference of government regulation, less interference. You'll wake up one morning and say my service is $50,000. What? Yeah, and people will pay $50,000. My service is $150,000. My mastermind is $1 million. I know people who charge $500,000 a mastermind, $500,000, $250,000. Where I come from, for you to come with that price, there has to be a regulation. Like, things are regulated. You just don't come up with such a price. Now, of course, each has, like I said, each has its own advantages. But for me, that has given me a lesson that when you that here in the US, as long as you're good at something, as long as you are competent at something, as long as you offer a service, there's no guilt at charging 5,000. There's no guilt at charging 10,000. Now, of course, for me, again, that's the transition I'm still trying to go through. That, okay, by the time I charge someone 10,000, I need to make sure that they can make 30,000, 50,000 out of that service. For me, right now, that's one thing that I'm still, like, going through, because I can offer services, I can do these things, but I guess maybe I'm still guilty of saying, oh, like, charging people that much, because it's not like something that I've been used to, But when I came here, last year I paid for a mastermind, or something that cost me 5 figures. Actually, 2 of them, that almost was it $12,000. So you see, when people, like, can come up with that price, like, the government cannot have a say on how much I determine my services to be. If I want, I can determine my services to be $500 or 500,000. There's no limit. This is a free market, and that's a true capitalistic market. You can't do that where I come from, because then some people will start coming in to figure out, how do we regulate this person from charging people this much? Not, again, that it's bad, but there is, where I come from, there is government regulation, versus here where there's little interference of government regulation. So there's so many things that I wanted to share. So many things, actually, that I have learned from this culture. It's still a transition that is going on within me, because then I have to think, okay, how do I consider relationship building? Do I consider how do I do business? Is it about relationship, or it's about being individualistic? Yeah, so I have to see what are the things that I need to borrow from the African culture where I'm from, and bring them to the American culture where I am, to make sure that I do business in an integral way. And so for me, those are some of that I'm still learning, that I'm still going through. That here, this being a free market, once I come up with, like, a price. So I'll give you a story. I'll give you a story about what I'm talking about. This being a free market economy, where I had a culture shock. Was it last year? Yeah, I think last year I had a culture shock, because I went to a dentist, and I had insurance, and they checked my teeth and said, hey, we need to do, was it deep clean or whatever, something like that, and do a filling to one of my teeth, and guess what? That service, even after with insurance, that service, I think, cost me $2,500, even after with insurance. That means the whole bill would have been over $6,000. Now, where I come from, I need to tell you, of course, now I'm not saying this in a way of, like, again, bashing either culture, but I'm saying this in a way of, like, a free market will decide how much they want to charge. That's it. They will decide how much and the government will have no interference. So I had a crown, they did my teeth, and I had a crown, and that crown, I think, back home, it costed me $250. Now here, the same crown would cost me around $1,000 after insurance. Now that is what I'm talking about, that being a free economy, people here, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, you decide your price. You decide your price. So I just wanted to share my story on how I'm transitioning into this culture, the North American culture, the capitalistic culture, purely capitalistic culture, that you have to develop a thick skin for you to do business well. You have to, yes, relationships, value relationships, but also think about profit. Like there's that book called Profit First, and I've read, it's a good book, Profit First. And that's the transition that I am still going through, and I'm still changing, my mind. Okay, how do I not feel guilty to charge this amount of money for my service? How do I, because I know I can do this, but I'm still struggling with, I know I can do this service, but I'm still struggling to put that price. For me, those are some of the things that I have gone through in transitioning, and I just wanted to share that story, or share whatever that I'm going through, because just like someone told me that I should share my transition story on how business is done differently from where I came from and here. And there's still so many things that I'm still learning, and as time goes on, I'll be sharing, I'll be sharing how I am progressing, and I'm sure, and I can already see that some things have really changed about me. Like business wise, there's some things that have really changed about me, and which I like, and again, I'll be sharing those things in the future. But I also, in the future, I want to share on why I love profit, why I love making. What do I use my profit for? When I make a profit, what do I use it for? I always love making a profit. So I want to thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I want to ask you to share and like, and leave me a comment. I want to know, I want to hear from you. What do you think of this content? What do you think of what should I change? What do you want to listen to more? What should I be talking about? Anything on stewardship and leadership and entrepreneurship and financial independence, things that I'm really interested about, and people starting their own businesses. Those are things that I'm really interested about, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for always sparing your time to watch my content, and I'll see you on the next episode.